what are your thoughts on a reality TV show? You know how they had on Amazon, Coach Prime, right?
Yeah.
Have Coach Belichick in a not a bar rescue, but a program rescue show. And he shows up with his Bible, his 400-page manifesto. He walks in there. He goes crazy like John Tafford. And then we follow his journey for like a season with a team.
Hell yeah, man.
That shit would be lit. Like, I would love to see that. Like, have Belichick on some John Tafford shit.
He'll be there and he's gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna have to call in a defensive expert for this, and then all of a sudden, Nick Saban busts in the damn door, and it's like, what the fuck?
Exactly. When you have Saban as a consultant is insane.
When you said media personality, just out of all of the things that Belichick has done to the media in the last like 20 years, that shit popped me because I never thought Belichick would be doing all of these media interviews and shit.
It's insane, man. It's insane.
Hand it to ETN, straight ahead, touchdown, touchdown, Dogs are SEC champions, Dogs have won it.
How about them Dogs?
All right, welcome to Dogs versus All Y'all, college football podcast where we don't just talk about the 2024 SEC champion Georgia Bulldogs. We talk about all things college football, hence all y'all. I'm joined by my brother here, contributor to Suplex Dinner Club and lifetime salty Alabama fan.
Salty? Damn.
Nah, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you, man. I'm welcomed by Eric. What's happening, brother?
What's up, man? I'm the all y'all because apparently the only team that Georgia can't beat is the University of Alabama. That's why they will always be the little brother.
Ooh.
I'm here for Georgia. I can't hate on the boys. Kirby's got that well-oiled machine going on up there. So
nah, for sure. I mean, if we weren't friends, we couldn't say these kind of things to each other. You know what I'm saying? So, I've always been a fan of Saban. I've said on this podcast, he's the greatest college coach ever. And until Kirby gives me a good 8 years of just dominance, that will remain the case. Saban is the greatest college coach of all time. But any of the listeners, shout out to y'all. Thank you for checking us out. On this episode, we're going to not only predict the first round of your college football playoffs. We definitely got to talk about the college football playoffs because my buddy here has an argument and he's going to convince me today, y'all, that Alabama should be in the playoffs. And we got to talk about the transfer portal, stuff like that. So if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe to our Suplex Dinner Club YouTube and socials, as well as all of the other projects a part of the network. So shout out to you if you're checking us out. But Eric, let's go ahead and jump into it, man. This news is moving fast, and at the time of recording, Bill Belichick wants to be North Carolina's head coach. It's crazy. It is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy. I definitely did not have that on my bingo card for college football ever. But yeah, it's super insane. It looks like he has all but accepted position. He is just waiting for North Carolina to basically agree to some terms. And that's what I want to talk to you about because you're a longtime Patriots fan. Like we just finished talking about Saban being the GOAT of college football. Belichick's the GOAT in the NFL. You can love him or hate him. You can love or hate the Patriots, but the rings don't lie, folks. The rings don't lie. The man, just like Tom, has a number of those guys. So that makes them the GOAT. They're the greatest. So the funny thing about Belichick potentially joining North Carolina, and this is mainly what I want to talk about with you, Eric, is the fact that Belichick not only came in, of course, ready to interview and all that, but he basically handed them a Bible. He gave them a 400-page, uh, GOAT Bible, saying that if you guys want me to be a part of your program, these things have to shake, these things have to move. And included in it, obviously, he wants, I think he said he wanted a full staff, of course, for him to be the coach, but also he wanted a full staff for a GM. Now, a lot of these college programs are moving forward with how the game is moving, a lot of money, a lot of numbers moving around. Why not hire a general manager for your team? I'll be the head coach. I'm going to run a tight ship, but I want a general manager that has my back when it comes to player acquisitions, deals here or there, that sort of thing. Also, in that, at least I haven't read the whole thing. It's 400 goddamn pages. But a part of it also is that his son is expected to be head coach in waiting. So I want to ask you, Eric, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be biased in this, but I do want your opinion on it. Would you hire the GOAT?
Okay, so here's my thing. It's ironic and funny to me that he's telling North Carolina that he needs a general manager to help run his team. Mm-hmm. In the last 10 years in New England, he was our general manager. And made some absolute terrible decisions, whether it be letting Brady go, thinking that Garoppolo was the future in 2015.
Right.
The draft decisions that we've made over the last 5 years minimum. None of them have made sense. Very questionable decisions. Mm-hmm. Free agent signings, not the greatest. Right. So I question that part of the decision making on his, behalf, just because he couldn't relinquish control in the NFL. How is he going to relinquish control in college? I think 95% of us believed that Bill Belichick was all but the Dallas Cowboys head coach coming into 2025. Him and Jerry had a good rapport. He kind of has the win now roster. He's only 16 wins away from the most NFL wins of all time. I would have never suspected him to come back to college until, a few days ago when he talked about interviewing with UNC.
Which came out of nowhere.
Out of absolute left field.
And then came out of nowhere.
And then it came down to, he's just interviewing so that bigger colleges can see that he's interested in the college program.
That's
which
where
spun off.
That's where
with
my
me
head
and you
was.
Talking about him going to Ohio State, which I would jump off a cliff for. Would I hire Belichick? Yes. Yeah. Point blank. He's one of the best coaches of all time. I believe he'll have more kids that would want to come to North Carolina now, because he does have, like he said on McAfee yesterday, he's going to run it like an NFL program with NFL staffers with an NFL pipeline. He's going to know exactly what it takes to get you to the NFL. If you want an NFL ready coach with an NFL ready program, I'm going to look at UNC. I know a lot of these 5 stars, 4 stars even, don't really consider UNC anything remotely like a football program. They're the basketball school. Right. They've had some solid players, but they're not a powerhouse.
Right.
I think with this acquisition, if Belichick signs, absolutely, like, you've got to look at them as a top contender for some of these players at this point.
I agree because the college football game the dynamic has completely changed and shifted toward it basically being a professional league at this point. So with that being said, if you have the opportunity to add someone with that pedigree, with that understanding of the pro game, much less one of the greatest defensive minds in the game of football, I would say, why not? And it's clearly is point proven that North Carolina is capable of running a high prestige program because they do it on the other end of basketball.
Absolutely.
So they're going to have the money. They'll make it happen, whatever it takes to go ahead and build the facilities, whatever the agreements are to make it happen. I don't see why it wouldn't work. I mean, you're in the ACC. You give me the opportunity to bring Bill Belichick to coach this program maybe for a year or two before handing the keys off, but you know he's going to be somewhat involved. He's one of the greatest defensive minds in the country. And I mean, it's worth it. For me, it's completely worth it. I would do it. The only questions that I would have, or the only concerns that I would have, is the same kind of concerns we had when Coach Prime decided to be a head football coach. We were like, how is this a vanity project, or is he really into it? Does he plan on making that lasting legacy? Like those kind of questions. Those are the same kind of questions I have for a Bill Belichick. Like, this guy doesn't have to work another day in his life. I mean, he's paid. He's good. He can be on Pat McAfee every other day or whatever the hell he's doing, you know?
The Manning cast and all
Yeah,
that.
he can be a personality, a media personality. So why and add the fact that isn't he dating like a 25-year-old? So I bet you gotta take all that into account also. Like I'm not hating. I'm just saying, like, hey, it's a lot of dedication that we need from you, or a lot of dedication and commitment we need for you to be the head coach of our program. But we see you with old girl over here, and we see you on Pat McAfee. I just wonder how is all that going to be managed. But if I was North Carolina, I'd say why not? Because at this point,
I think it's hilarious too. Because Jonathan Jones, a cornerback in New England, did an interview with the media yesterday or the day before when the news was like catching fire, and they were like, they asked him how he thought that Belichick was going to do in a college coaching environment. And my takeaway from that was, it was so funny when he was like, you know, a kid's going to walk into Belichick's office and go, hey man, I need some more NIL money. And he's going to pull them transcripts and he's going to be like, hey, you got a D in history. You need to bring that up before you come talk to me about some money.
Yeah, that's true.
And that program's going to be a tight ship. I can, as somebody that has been a New England Patriots fan since the Bledsoe era, that's going to be a tight ship in North Carolina. It's going to be his way or the highway.
Yeah. So by the time this episode drops, we'll know whether or not North Carolina said yay or nay. But both of us were like, go for it. Do whatever it takes. Bring the GOAT in there for a couple years. If his son is a klutz, then it is what it is. You know, I don't know the guy. Isn't he at Washington or something?
I don't really know what happened to him after he left New England.
Yeah, I think he's like the OC at Washington. So, I mean, if that's setting up your son for a Power 5 coaching job, rock and roll, man. Power to you. All right, Eric, let's go ahead and get into it, man. Let's rip off the Band-Aid. This past weekend after conference championships played out, the college football playoffs were revealed to the people Sunday. ESPN does such a really good job of just dragging that announcement completely
for no damn
out.
reason.
They'll drag it out like it was only one team, or basically one spot that we were all wondering, and they drug that out for a good hour and a half. Yeah, man, it's ridiculous, but credit to them because we were all paying attention. Long story short, after all the seeding was done, it came down to that final open spot, and a lot of college football fans basically made it a two-man race, and that was between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the SMU Mustangs. Now, the Mustangs, the night before, they did lose in the ACC championship to Goofy Dabo and the Clemson Tigers, making it pretty difficult to go ahead and say SMU's in the playoff and Alabama. Once that game was lost, a lot of us were wondering, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. And sure enough, the playoff committee went with SMU as the 11th seed over the 11th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. That brought a lot of discourse amongst college football Twitter and any kind of social media. If you're a fan of a SEC team or an ACC team, you are probably on your phone talking, laughing, or trolling, or arguing, or any of that stuff, talking about this decision. So I had to bring in my brother here, who's an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. He knows that I try to be as unbiased as possible. Yes, I may make jokes. I will troll you to oblivion. But when it comes down to it, I am a diehard college football fan. I am not a biased Georgia fan at all.
Nope.
At all. It's proven.
Confirm.
Yeah, yep. It is proven. But I think we disagreed about the positioning of Alabama being in that playoff, Eric. So I want to know your thoughts. What were your feelings? Because I know the night, that Saturday night, you pretty much said, hey, if I'm putting it in the hands of the committee, there's no need for me to stress out about this. Y'all have a good night. And you pretty much said, I'll see y'all Sunday. And that's what it was. And then Sunday came. What was your feeling? What was your immediate feeling?
So let me just say, I'm not mad that we didn't make the playoffs. If you asked me as a college football fan, should 9-3 Alabama be in the playoffs? I'm going to tell you straight up, no.
Okay.
As a fan of the program, no, we did not deserve to be there for our own reasoning and accord. Now, I have a whole thing written down here to explain why the University of Alabama should be in the playoffs.
Okay.
But I do want to preface this by saying I am not a biased Alabama fan either. You know that.
No.
I'm not one of these what is the message board terms for Alabama fans? Isn't it Gumps?
Yeah, Gumps.
Yeah, I'm not one of them. I've been born and bred in this program.
Right.
I was here for the Zhao era when we had Freddie Millen, Sean Alexander. That 2000s team is like the first one I remember. I'm pre-Saban. I'm pre-Saban.
Right. That's it. Yeah.
It's 9-3 is still a good year to me. Because I've lived through some how the hell did we lose to this team years.
Correct.
With that being said, should Alabama have made the playoffs over SMU? I don't even think it's just SMU that needs to be in this discussion. Okay. I have seen 3 teams that we've had arguments for. One of them may surprise you. And I'm not here to argue that this team shouldn't be in it, but I think it was just seeing everything that I've seen in the last 2 days. That there's discourse for SMU to have made the playoffs.
Okay.
I've seen people questioning Indiana making the playoffs.
That's fair.
And I've seen people questioning Texas making the playoffs.
I'll be honest, Eric. I was thinking that in the back of my head just because I have had this conversation about Texas all season.
Yep.
Just questioning that schedule. Just questioning what they had in front of them. Was it looks a little funny in the light.
That is the easiest SEC schedule I think I have ever seen in the history of SEC football. But so my argument for Alabama is I went to collegefootballplayoffs.com, which is the official site of the college football playoffs.
Okay.
The principles that the committee said that they will select the teams by using a process that distinguishes among otherwise comparable teams by considering a couple of different options.
Right.
Strength of schedule, head-to-head competition, wins versus like opponents.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just look at the first one, the strength of schedule, Alabama's strength of schedule was 18th. SMU's was 57th. Indiana's was 67th. Texas's was 20th. I think Texas's strength of schedule being 20th is a little skewed because they played y'all twice. And y'all were a top 10 team, top 5 team both times.
Right.
I think that if you look at who they played when they played, Oklahoma was still a top 25 team when they played them.
Okay.
Vanderbilt was a top 25 team when they played them.
They were.
So they do have wins against quality opponents at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So I could understand people being a little questionable with Texas, but I'm not. I think Texas is one of the top 12 teams in college football.
I agree.
So this is where it gets interesting. Head-to-head competition. Texas and Alabama have 3 common opponents this year.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama beat number 2 Georgia 41-34 at home.
Right.
You watched that game. I watched that game. The world watched that game because it was a phenomenal game.
It was.
Texas has lost to number 5 Georgia 30-15 in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
In Texas. And also to number 5 Georgia again 22-19 in the SEC championship game with an injured starting quarterback, Carson Beck, which thoughts and prayers to Carson. Hope he's ready for the playoffs.
Definitely. Or the draft, whichever.
Hey, we talked about that last night on Triple Coverage Pod about where Carson Beck's stock is now with an injury. Check us out on Suplex Dinner Club.
Definitely.
So I think our wins against Georgia and Texas's 2 losses against Georgia aren't being held in the same weight.
Okay.
Especially because Georgia beat Texas at home.
Right.
At home
by multiple
double
scores.
Digits.
Right.
Exactly. But this is where there's no forgiveness. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt 40-35 in Nashville.
Right.
After Coach Saban gave them the rat poison, saying that Vanderbilt is the easiest SEC school to go to and went on the road, Bama comes in and shits the bed.
They did. They definitely did.
Texas squeaked out a win in the last second field goal against number 25 Vanderbilt in Nashville.
Mm-hmm. That was an ugly game, too.
Ugly.
It was a very ugly game.
Ugly. And then the reason that Alabama isn't and shouldn't make the playoffs is because we went to Norman, kicked a field goal, and went home. And lost 24-3 in Norman.
That's it.
And Texas beat number 18 Oklahoma 34-3 in the shootout. But here's where I don't understand some logic.
Okay.
The committee straight up said that Texas's best win of the year was against Vanderbilt.
That's wild.
And our worst loss of the year is against Vanderbilt.
That's wild. That's a wild statement to make. Like
exactly.
You avoid even saying something like that.
I don't understand the thought process behind that.
Mm-hmm.
How I would have said our worst loss was against Oklahoma at that point, but
I agree.
It is what it is. I think Vanderbilt had a phenomenal season for Vanderbilt. But then you look at SMU and Indiana.
Right.
So SMU went 2-1 against top 25 ranked teams.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana went 0-1. So combined 2-2. We went 4-1 against top 25 teams.
Mm.
The one loss, a 7-point loss in Knoxville. Apparently, we just don't know how to play on the road this year. All of this to just say, if you look at just the resume, you can make the argument that Alabama deserved to be in the playoffs over either Indiana or Southern Methodist. But, the main factor is a 6-6 loss to Vanderbilt and a 6-6 loss, or a loss to a 6-6 Vanderbilt and a loss to a 6-6 Oklahoma, both on the road. You can't make the college football playoffs losing to 500 teams. I'm sorry.
And got your ass kicked.
Ass whooped in Norman. Yeah. Like I can forgive a 5-point loss to Vanderbilt. I can't forgive a 31-point blowout.
Yeah.
Or 21.
Yeah.
Math
21. Right. No, I didn't know what you're saying. Yeah, no, that after like legit, it's one thing about us college football fans, and it just shows how a lot of us are. We try to do the revisionist history.
Yep.
And we do it within weeks. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things where Alabama, like you said, Alabama went to Oklahoma and only scored 3 points. If you want to say 10 because that freaky Ryan Williams catch toward the end, rock and roll, I'll give you that. That's still 10-31. And I think me being an unbiased college football fan and just looking at things, I said, that shit just killed Alabama's playoff chances.
Yep.
Like, you don't lose to those kind of teams. Like, you can make it a game. You can be competitive, and we can argue, hey, Vanderbilt's a competitive team this year. Cool. But you don't lose in that fashion in Oklahoma.
No.
And we've said this before, like, you know, in private, I told you, I said, dude, it just really goes to show how much cachet Alabama has built to even be able to argue that. Like, no other program, at least in my opinion, maybe Notre Dame, just because, that can argue. I mean, shit, Notre Dame basically has argued the same thing because they had the worst loss of the year against Northern Illinois. No other program can lose in the fashion that y'all did and even say, yeah, but we should still be in the playoffs. Like, nobody else. If Georgia had made that loss, is foregone conclusion, we're out of there, and deservedly so. But y'all have built that prestige and that, again, that cachet amongst, thanks to media, thanks to you guys winning fucking every national championship every other year, which is still insane to me. Growing up, seeing this kind of dominance is insane. But it's that kind of dominance that actually even made that argument for y'all.
Agreed.
So,
yeah.
So, I mean, I was kind of thinking that you were going to, I mean, when we initially talked, I was like, I kind of think Eric's going to argue like Alabama should be in this and stand on it. But I also, what I've said to you, I talk to Alabama fans all the time. I went to college at Alabama. I went to school with diehard Alabama fans. I also went to school and worked with people that were new Alabama fans. And it's a clear-cut difference between the two parties. The day ones, the people that can name coaches other than Saban and Bear, they know the struggle. So when y'all look at this season, you're like, yeah, man, this is a disappointing season. We don't deserve to be in the playoffs. But the spoiled ones, the Nepo baby Bama fans, the ones that were walking in when Saban was already in there, they're like, how
are you keeping us out?
How dare you? Like, that sort of thing. It's like, what the hell are y'all talking about? Like, y'all lost 3 in-conference games, 2 against 2 non-winning teams.
Yep.
And one of which boat raced you, and that should have been it. But again, I would tell, if you were to ask me, like, is Alabama one of the 12 best teams in the nation? Absolutely. On just off of, you look at their roster, they're a top 3 team in the nation. Not many other programs have the level of talent. A player like Jalen Milrow is, I personally, as a Georgia fan, I'll have my bias out here. I'd never want to see Jalen Milrow ever again. Ever again. Even though I keep hearing, oh, he's coming back. I keep hearing that. And I'm just like, please don't come back.
You know what? You and the Alabama fans all agree on that.
And I wanted your opinion on that because, again, talking to a lot of college football fans, being on Twitter, a lot of the people that are Alabama fans that I know, they're kind of like, yeah, we kind of want to move forward. We're kind of good on them. And it's kind of like, man, that's kind of cold-blooded.
A little bit.
Because it's not just on him. But in a couple, the two noticeable games I would definitely say would be Vandy and Oklahoma. Like, we had bad Milrow games, and bad Milrow games are
awful.
Like, Jesus. So what's your opinion on Jalen Milrow?
I want him to come back for his senior year. I 100% think that he's better than Ty Simpson and Dylan Longren. We're gonna need Keelan to have a year under his belt before he starts. Because as it stands right now, Keelan would be my day one starter in 2025.
Wow, really? Over Ty Simpson?
Oh, absolutely, bro.
Wow.
I've seen Ty Simpson play an entire game. I don't ever want to see him play another snap for the University of Alabama at quarterback.
Yikes. Okay.
I understand that the South Florida game was in hurricane force winds, but
that was a
he looked
situation.
Lost. Yeah. I cannot have a quarterback at the University of Alabama that looks lost. Not again. Not after years of quarterback play that, from McElroy to Blake Sims, Jake Coker.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even believe I just put Jake Coker in that conversation.
Yeah, that's
Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, Bryce Young, Jalen Hurts, or Jalen. I think I already said
Milrow. Yeah, right.
Jalen Milrow. Mm-hmm. I can't have somebody lost. I need somebody that's going to lead my offense. So I need Jalen to come back another year. I do believe it's unlikely. I still think he's the number 3 quarterback off the board. Just because his potential is tremendous.
Yeah, if you unlock something with him, it's an issue. Like that first half against us was probably the greatest performance that I've ever seen.
He was on
like
point.
That first half. Yeah, it was ridiculous. The
passes were exactly where they needed to be. His feet were exactly where they needed to be. He was looking off defenders. Like, my only problem with Jalen is sometimes he gets so locked in on one receiver, Ryan Williams, and doesn't look elsewhere. And I think towards the end of the year, minus the Oklahoma game, we started seeing him involve Jeremy Bernard in the pass game a lot more. Transfer portal Kendrick Law a little bit more. And Ryan Williams kind of took a little bit of a back seat, but it was good because he was looking at other options.
Right.
I think if you can unlock Jalen reading through his progressions, you've got a superstar.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one of those tricky prospects, and I know we're not going to go deep detail about NFL draft or anything like that, but when it comes to Jalen Milrow, he's one of those prospects that's very confusing in the sense that he, in my opinion, he has to be in the perfect situation to be utilized and actually thrive. Because if he just goes somewhere that they just draft him best player available and it's not a scheme fit and the coach is looking crazy at him, he's going to look lost. And he's not going to look like that explosive, dynamic player that we all know he's capable of being. So he has to be he has to be in a scheme that has 100% confidence in him as the quarterback and being able to use him on the run while also trying to work with him on his progressions of, any of those layered passes, because he's been a big boom or bust player.
Yep.
When in the passing game, it's like either it's going to be a big long play or it's been what the fuck was that? Like that's literally what his career largely has been.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's either 5 rush touchdowns and a win or 3 interceptions, no touchdowns and a loss. There's no in between.
Right.
And I'll tell you the system in the NFL. If I'm San Francisco.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
They're not going to give up on 30.
I feel you, but it's something about his layered passing and his completion percentage that kind of worries me in that system. because that's the dynamic thing about Purdy is the fact that even though he can move around, when he's dialed in, he's completing the passes that need to be completed on that team. And that's why I said last year, I was like, Bo Nix is the perfect quarterback for that offense. He is. He just is. It's a fact.
Hell, apparently he's the perfect quarterback for Denver's offense at this point.
I mean, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where those are the type of players that have to be in the right situation.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can say, well, duh, Adrian, that you can say that for every player. But what I'm saying is, in the perfect situation, those guys are actually dangerous. Those guys are actually really valuable. Now, someone like a Caleb Williams, I don't have to really say, well, it has to be a perfect situation. I could say, well, he's talented. He's a A+ player on these sorts of valuable variables that Caleb has. He can be in multiple scenarios and multiple situations and probably come out thriving. That's less likely for somebody like Bo Nix. Like if you throw Bo Nix, if you throw Bo Nix in a situation, he'll look like what he looked at Auburn in spots. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really about his scenario. So I don't know, but hopefully Jalen Milrow declares for the draft as soon as possible because I don't want to see him in Athens next year. I definitely don't. But this is a segue, not just – I don't think I'm the only one who doesn't want to see Jalen Milrow in Athens next year. It looks like a number of Alabama wide receivers don't want to see him in Athens either based on this transfer portal. And that's the next topic we're going to talk about. Eric, already we've gotten plenty of action with the transfer portal. It opened up this Monday. Some teams are getting depleted heavily. A couple that come to mind off the top of my head, I want to say Kentucky is already like 20 players out. Arkansas is right behind them, like 19, 20 players out. Alabama, who we're talking about today, has 10 players out. Not all of the players, folks, are starters. Let's not go overboard with the dynasty's over and all this kind of craziness. It's just some really good, talented players from a really good, talented program that have decided to look elsewhere. And it's a number of those wide receivers. And it's a number of these players that are clearly, because they've already declared for the portal, they're opting out of these bowls. So that's my next question. That's what I want to talk about, Eric. We're seeing a lot of these opt-outs. We haven't even really gotten as many of the guys declaring for the draft like I think we're definitely due. But what are your feelings about opting out of a bowl game?
Well, let me just say, I don't think we'll see as many underclassmen declaring for the draft as much anymore.
Okay.
Just because now you are getting paid in college.
That's fair.
I mean, clearly, if the talent's there, they're gonna leave. But say some of these like second round, third round fringe guys, they're gonna stay in college. Yes, I believe that players should be required to play. I don't think opt-outs should be a thing in bowl games.
Okay.
Especially with the NIL money. I don't know what NIL looks like in terms of legal ramifications and all that jazz.
Right.
But in my opinion, I'm giving you X amount of dollars to come play for my college.
Mm-hmm.
You should play for my college in any bowl game that we make after the season. If you want to transfer out, by all means, until we fix the transfer portal and all that.
Mm-hmm.
If not, we get 63-3 mollywoppings like we saw last year in the Orange Bowl.
Yes.
With what?
Where that team flat out quit.
The team quit.
Yeah.
They had 70 opt-outs?
Damn near. Yeah. In between pro guys declaring for the draft, and it was mostly guys declaring for the draft, but also there's a good amount of guys that were just entering the portal and just sitting out. And they definitely screwed themselves on that.
Because I believe, like, pre-NIL money, if the guys were going pro, I get it, right? Like, you break your leg, tear your ACL, you go from a first rounder to a third, fourth rounder.
Right.
You lose the bag. But now with NIL, you're getting paid regardless. So you should play, honestly. I feel like it should be honored. It's a lot of gray area. It really is. Really and truly is. But yeah, I've essentially contracted you to play for my school for 4 years. You should play for my school in a bowl game, even though it doesn't have any ramifications on, college football playoffs. Because you wouldn't opt out if you're in the playoffs. Why would you opt out?
Well, some of these guys are. Some of these guys are. Which is crazy, which is insane to me, of opting out or entering the transfer portal while your team is still in the hunt for winning it. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Julio Humphrey. Best of luck, my brother. Best of luck, man. Best of luck, my brother. Best of luck. But these are my thoughts when it comes to these opt-outs. I definitely agree with you, Eric. It's definitely a touchy subject. It's a lot of gray area because certain guys have certain situations where, hey, I'm a top 10 pick lock. I don't really want to risk it. That, like, I understand that. I definitely understand that, especially if you haven't made the playoff and all of that. But on the other end, it's a little sensitive in the sense of this is your last time playing with your brothers, your family. Like, this is where you get all emotional as a college football fan. Like, how can you even think about something like that? But that's the decision a lot of these kids are making. I do think when it comes to the NIL, I think it's got to be something. They got to do something contractually where it's like, okay, we're going to pay you this amount for the season. Bowl, you get a bonus or something.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And maybe it's even to the point where it's like, okay, we'll pay you this money, but if you don't make this bowl game, we're obligated to, or you're obligated to pay us back X amount of dollars of your NIL. Now, that gets a little tricky. I know that'll probably spook off some kids of deciding to go somewhere once you start saying that, but if it's that big of a deal for you as a program to say, these guys are opting out, I can't control it, maybe that's the way to defend yourself. Yeah. Just to go ahead and put it out there like, yo, if you don't make the bowl game, if you don't play in the bowl game, that's fine. We'll move on. But we want X amount of money, X amount of dollars back from you. So I don't know. It's just one of those things where I definitely understand if you're a first round, if you've gotten a first round grade and it's looking like you're going to be a first rounder, I kind of understand you making that business decision, especially if you don't consider that game premier enough for your services. Any of us, I mean, in our positions, if I were to get another job, I'm not obligated to, I don't have to go to my current job.
Ooh.
I don't. I can just say, I could just say, you know what? Screw this place. I'm out of here.
I put in the 2 weeks. I don't need it.
You don't even have to put in the 2 weeks. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that it's a morally right thing. I'm just saying that you can do that. You don't have to give nobody a 2 week notice.
Burn all them motherfucking bridges on the way out.
I mean, if
they're not going to give you a 2 week notice before they fire you.
That's it. That's
but
it.
Hey,
But again, yeah. So when it comes to these opt-outs, I like, and again, I'm a Georgia fan, so of course most of my references are going to come from like what I've seen from my team. And one thing I will definitely say about Kirby is more so when it comes to the guys who are opting out for bowl games. I definitely remember 2018 Sugar Bowl against Texas. That was probably the first time that we saw Georgia not really in control of the opt-out situations. It was a lot of, is this kid playing? Is this kid not playing? And it kind of made some tricky situations. It made a game that should have been our game clearly. It made it a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging. And we messed around and lost that game because they jumped all on us on that first half because of those distractions. The following year when they was that 2019, we play against Baylor. Yes, we play against Baylor. We had Swift. Swift was pretty much declaring for the draft. Kirby had a straight up conversation with him and all the other players that were draft eligible. He said, look, if you're declaring for the draft, that's fine. We respect that. You're just not welcome to travel with the team. Basically, you're an adult now. You're out of the nest. But if you plan on playing with us, then you will practice just like normal. You will play just like normal. You're a part of this. Now with Swift, he had a little touchy situation with his shoulder, but he still practiced. He played. He didn't play the whole game. He played in spots. But he finished it out. And I felt that was the best way of handling it.
Agreed.
You know, I felt that was the best way of handling it. And it just seems like moving forward past those games, when guys were going to declare for the draft, they just wouldn't travel with the team. That's not Georgia saying you're no longer a part of the family. It's just we still have business.
And you're not part of it.
And that's it. And that's what it was. And I just like his approach there compared to other schools that play this waffling game, kind of like what Florida State did. You had a number of these players that were like, maybe I'm going to play, maybe I'm not. And it kind of screwed them over.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think because of who we're fans of, we have different perspectives because both of our programs are kind of run the exact same.
Yep.
The year that Bryce was going pro.
Yep.
He didn't opt out. And Will. They both played that last bowl game. And, you know, everybody in their mana said, you know, they're going to opt out. Nope, they're not going to play. And here they are playing in the Orange Bowl just, you know, to steal something from our wrestling fandom, to finish their story.
Right.
Which I loved. I thought that showed a lot of character for both players. And, you know, we really don't have to deal with opt-outs much because the kids that come to the University of Alabama and the University of Georgia, I feel like a lot of them love the program and love the culture and
it's a buy-in.
Everything that we put together. Yeah, they've drank the Kool-Aid.
Right.
They're here.
Whereas the schools that really go into the transfer portal, like a Ole Miss, like that team's not even going to be on that field of that bowl game.
No, absolutely not.
You know, maybe Dart, maybe Jackson, but past that, those guys ain't going to be there.
And it would have been the same, in my opinion, if Ohio State would have missed the playoffs. You wouldn't see Will Howard. You wouldn't see Judkins. You wouldn't see Henderson, Emeka. I don't think any of them would have played. Yeah.
Well, one team that has seemingly avoided the whole opt-out discussions, Colorado Buffs. It's already been announced. Shedeur is going to be there playing. Shedeur Sanders, Shiloh Sanders, they're playing their last games. And Travis Hunter, who is potentially our next Heisman Trophy winner. That's what it seems to be. That's what Vegas is saying. Travis Hunter is your next Heisman Trophy winner. He's going to play. He's going to play in this bowl game. He wants to finish and go out the right way. So shout out to them. Speaking of Travis Hunter, this weekend we got the Heisman Trophy presentation. Eric, they just announced the 4 finalists. Travis Hunter from Colorado being one. Ashton Gentry from Boise State, running back who had a phenomenal year. 2 quarterbacks. We got Dylan Gabriel of Oregon, only undefeated team. He put up numbers. He did his thing. He's basically getting the Stetson Bennett, hey, you just led an awesome team. come on over. Yeah, come on over to New York. And my guy, Cam Ward of Miami, who had a phenomenal season. Unfortunately, he took 2 losses that were unforgivable by most college football standards. But those are your 4 finalists. I'll be honest, Eric, going into Miami's last game, I said Cam Ward is going to win the Heisman because he's going to beat Syracuse, even though I think Syracuse is a really good team. And shout out to Coach Fran Brown. He's one of my favorites, former Dogs coach. I said Miami's going to win that game, move on, win the ACC, make the playoff, and it can't be denied because of those numbers that Cam Ward put out. Fortunately, that didn't happen. All the while, it looks like it's going to be a 2-man race, and that's between the Boise State running back and Colorado's Mr. Do-It-All, Travis Hunter. So I want to know from you, Eric, how do you like the finalists, the final 4, and who do you ultimately, if you were to vote for the Heisman, who would you vote as the winner?
So one of my favorite things in the world to talk about is college football. So I came with stats on this this question. The final 4, I really like it. I do think Shedeur should be there. I do kind of agree with him questioning why he wasn't involved, because most of the year Shedeur was putting up fantastic numbers, and he's projected to be the number 1 quarterback taken first overall in the draft. So, you know, if he's that good, why is he not in the Heisman race? That's neither here nor there. It's a 2-man race. It's Travis Hunter. It's Ashton Gentry. So Travis Hunter is the only player to log 150 snaps on both sides of the ball this year.
It's nuts.
Insane. And not only that, he's got 92 catches for 1,152 yards, which averages about 12.5 yards a catch, and 14 receiving touchdowns, which led the Power 4 conferences.
Nice.
And that's second in Colorado history. Which
was that
again,
behind Michael Westbrook?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which is crazy. And also has a 1 rushing touchdown. Nice. Second in the Power 4 and 5th in FBS for receiving yards per game and receptions per game, respectively. And it's not against bad competition.
Right.
They faced 6 teams with top 50 pass defenses all year. And in those games combined, his PFF grade was almost a 90. Defensively, he's got 31 tackles, 11 pass breakups, 4 interceptions, only allowed 22 receptions on 39 targets, just gave up 6 first downs and 1 touchdown. And I mean, he wasn't getting picked on. Nobody was throwing at him. That's part of the reason his stats are that low, in my opinion. But it was an absolute historic season for Travis Hunter. But on the other token, Ashton Gentry also had a historic season.
Monster.
344 carries, 2,497 yards.
That's nuts.
Which averages out to 7.3 yards a carry, with 29 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown. As it stands, you know, he's 131 yards away from breaking Barry Sanders' all-time rushing record, who I never thought I'd see that broken. Because in my opinion, if Derrick Henry couldn't do it, yeah, exactly. Nobody was doing it. He averages 190 yards a game, 0 games under 125 rushing yards all season. Now, the level of competition that Boise State's played is not up to snuff with Colorado. They only played 2 rushing defenses in the top 80, Oregon and UNLV twice.
What was his numbers against? Didn't he have a decent game against Oregon?
He got at least 125 yards against Oregon. I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, shoot, man. He had 192 and 3 touchdowns against the number 1 team in the nation. I don't know, man. I think he just said, what were you saying, Eric? What were you saying about my competition?
Hey, I said only 2 against top 80s, but he ate.
Yeah.
He ate against those two.
He got busy against the number one team in the nation.
Sure as hell did. All that being said, in my opinion, they're both the best players on their team.
Mm-hmm.
They're two of the best players in college football. But the media's pushed Travis as the winner since preseason.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately going to be the reason that Travis Hunter wins the Heisman. I do believe Ashton Gentry should win the Heisman.
Okay.
But the media push for Travis Hunter is going to be the reason that he wins it. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it.
Right.
Because
both are
dang.
phenomenal. Yeah, man. Forever legends for
absolutely
the type of year that they had.
Insane. They have been so much fun to watch this year.
Mm-hmm.
But that it's just insane, the numbers that they put up. Like, if you would have told me the two Heisman finalists was them two this year and that was it, I wouldn't have argued.
Be fine with it. Yeah,
wouldn't have argued.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, I agree with you, man. I want my heart wants to say Gentry because I don't think we're gonna ever see a running back put up those kind of numbers and those kind of performances like literally any and every time that we saw him on TV, because I do watch Boise State football. And absolutely. I was just like, this dude is crazy, man. Like the numbers he's putting up, his performances. Once again, he put up damn near 200 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns against the number one team in the nation. He had his team, his Mountain West champion Boise State Broncos, 3 points from tying Oregon.
Yep.
That says a lot. But I gotta say, I do agree with you. I think Travis is gonna win it. The only reason really that I want Travis Hunter to win the Heisman is for that acceptance speech, because no shade or anything. It's like I'm familiar with Travis Hunter from high school, and everything that I saw and heard about the kid, really genuine person, really genuine, good-hearted human being. And I think those are the type of people you should platform. This is the perfect opportunity to platform an unselfish, positive, good-natured human being. Agreed. In this day and age of college football being selfish, according selfish, power-hungry, players looking out for themselves, the opt-outs. We spent 30 minutes talking about kids saying, hey, I'm not playing. In this day and age of college football, you need to be able to platform somebody like a Travis Hunter, and this is a perfect opportunity. It just so happens that he's a freak of nature and one of the best players that we've ever seen physically. But as a human being, I do want to hear him. I want to hear his story. I want to hear him accepting that speech, thanking Deion Sanders for that opportunity, because just think about how many people, and I'm not a prime stan or anything like that as a coach, but as a player, he's one of my favorites of all time. I think you're insane if you don't agree with that kind of thing. But think about how many people were rooting against Travis Hunter after he flipped from Florida State to Jackson State on signing day. Think about that. Twitter was in ruins. They were in ruins, and they were wishing injury on him. Oh, he's an idiot. He's just chasing money and all of this. All the while, he's getting coached up by one of the greatest of all time. He's actually building relationships, lasting relationships. And he not only followed him to Jackson State, but he wound up taking a chance again, stepping out on faith and going to Colorado and doing what they wound up doing. So I just want to hear that story. And I want him to be platformed, because he just seems like a really awesome human being.
No, I agree. And just and shout out to Prime and to Shador and to Travis. Like, they turned a 1-11 program into a 9-3 program
nuts,
in
man.
2 years.
Nuts, yeah.
2 years.
It's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah, this is insane. So shout out to them and think about all those ratings and all that stuff for those games. Like that was I think we'll be able to look back in the next couple years at the spectacle, which was of Coach Prime. Yeah, that's insane.
And shout out to Heisman Trophy winner and future New England Patriot Travis Hunter.
Oh yeah, y'all are in the hunt for Hunter, so I like it. All right, so hot take before we move on, man. I want to. It's easy. I think it's pretty easy. Like we said, it's a 2-man race for this year's Heisman. I want to know who's going to win the Heisman next year, Eric.
This is the one that shot. This is the one that took forever for me to figure out because you've got to look at potential opt-outs, potential transfer portals, potential draft, in like all kinds of stuff. So it was hard for me to come to a decision. So I got a couple names.
Nah. I want one.
You want one?
I want one. I'll give you two. Because you're my guy.
It's hard to go against Arch Manning just because it's the name value.
That's a good call.
And the fact that he's going to run that program next year, but also...
And the hype machine is going to be real for Texas
exactly.
next year.
And then it's a quarterback award at this point. This is such a rare year where there's not a clear-cut quarterback.
Right.
I got to go with Nico in Tennessee.
Yep. I agree 100%. I think the hype is going to be real for both of those guys. Nico would be my pick. I would go ahead and say he's my odds-on favorite because both of them. I mean, you're playing the SEC, so you're going to be on national TV damn near every week.
Yeah.
And it's going to be big-time matchups each and every week. Once again, like you said, the quarterback position has largely dominated the Heisman talks for the past decade plus. I don't think it's any different next year. I like saying Arch, but I would definitely pick Nico. A dark horse. What's my guy from Boston College who should be going to Florida State next year? Thomas Castellanos or something, whatever.
Oh,
that guy.
Is it Castellanos?
Yeah, I think that's
Thomas Castellanos. Yeah,
he's my dark horse. Hey, and the reason why I say that is because even though Gus Malzahn does certain things with quarterbacks, when you give him a talented quarterback that can move around but also distribute the ball, he can get busy. So he hasn't even announced that he's going to Florida State. But I'm taking a shot. I'm saying he goes to Florida State and he puts up some numbers. Now, the only thing standing in his way is that week 1 matchup against your boys. That's going to be a national primetime game, and all eyes are going to be watching that. So if he does show up and show out against Alabama, that's kicking off that Heisman campaign. Right. I don't know if he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to do it, but it is that big if, and he's my dark horse for the Heisman. I gotta figure out how to say his last name because
Castellanos.
Okay, so yeah, he's my dark horse. Nico's my favorite, but he's my dark horse. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, look us up on socials at Suplex Dinner Club. And be sure to check out our other projects. We talk college football on Dogs versus All Y'all. That's a weekly college football podcast where we don't just talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. We talk about all things college football. The Life and Times pod, which is short for the Life and Times of a Restaurant Lifer podcast, where I have some chill conversations with some cool and interesting people that I've met in my years in the hospitality industry. And of course, check out Talk 'em in the Building. That's a pro wrestling podcast where we solely focus on the promo. We talk about the talkers, we hype the hype man, and we pontificate on the promo. It's a fun project, and if you're a pro wrestling fan, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. If you're into TV and movie reviews, check out Four Corners Cinema with Ari and Adrian, a podcast where two lifelong pro wrestling fans review film and other forms of media that just so happen to have some of our favorite pro wrestlers. The Suplex Dinner Club family is growing, and I would love for you to be a part of it. All right, Eric, before we head out, man, we got to do some predictions of these first round of the college football playoffs. You got some intriguing matchups, some lines that are very interesting, to say the least, for me. It seems like Vegas does not think that we're going to have that many competitive games. But let's go ahead and talk about it. First game we're going to talk about is Friday night's game against the Indiana Hoosiers that we did talk about earlier in the podcast. They are going to South Bend to face Notre Dame. Notre Dame is currently 8.5-point favorites. Eric, what are your thoughts on this game, and who do you think wins to go face my Georgia Bulldogs in the Sugar Bowl?
So if you look at just Indiana versus Notre Dame, 99% of America is going to go Notre Dame, just for the name value.
Fair.
But if looking at the stats, like yards per game, Indiana's 24th, Notre Dame's 41st. Indiana's second in points per game. Notre Dame is third in points per game. And then their defensive, Indiana's second in yards per game, Notre Dame's eighth. Notre Dame allows 13 points per game, Indiana 14 points a game. I don't know where they are getting this 8.5-point line at.
Right.
Because I do not think this game is going to be a blowout. It's going to be close. I don't think so either. Yeah. And it's going to be good. It's going to be probably my second favorite first round matchup.
Okay.
But I do believe, much like the Huskies of Northern Illinois did, they're going to walk right into South Bend. They're going to beat Touchdown Jesus. And it's going to be Indiana versus Georgia.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like that pick. I did enjoy watching Indiana football. Coach Sig is the man. I love him. I love his energy. I just enjoy how quickly he turned that team around. It made them a very confident team, although like we said earlier, the schedule leaves a little bit to be desired. And that one game against Ohio State really sticks out like a sore thumb because those guys did not show up. So for that reason, I'm going to pick Notre Dame because I do like Notre Dame's defense. Love the way they use Riley Leonard. And I like their running back. He got a little juice to him. I like their team. I like to see them in New Orleans New Year's Day. I got Notre Dame winning that game. So we're split there. All right, next game, Eric. This is going to be this should be a really good game. I think, honestly, this may be one of the most interesting games of the week. I think most people are going to be locked in on Tennessee, Ohio State, but honestly, I think the SMU Penn State game is probably going to be a very interesting and fun game for me. Penn State is currently 8-point favorite, which seems like too much for me, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a college football fan. Eric, what do you think of the at-large SMU Mustangs going to Penn State? It should be a whiteout. So who do you think comes out the win?
It is confirmed it will be a whiteout. They're going to Penn State in the winter with the high of 36 that day. 11-mile-an-hour winds. They've got a whiteout. Them Dallas boys ain't gonna know what hit them.
Okay.
I got Penn State by 2 scores.
Oh wow! So you got Penn State covering. I like that.
Penn State covering to go face Ashton, Gentry, and the Broncos.
Got that. All right, I agree with you on Penn State winning. Man, you bring a valid point with that weather because I don't think it gets down to 36 degrees in Dallas. Last I checked, but I do like SMU's quarterback. He He's fun. He's a fun player to watch. And the way that those guys stood up against Clemson to fight back when other teams would have just sat and folded that ACC championship, that makes me at least cheer for SMU. But I agree. I think Penn State wins that game. All right, moving on to ACC champion Clemson Tigers. Goofy Dabo. I love making fun of the guy, but damn it, Eric, he's like a cockroach, man. I don't know what it is about Dabo. We can laugh and joke at him. He doesn't mess with the portal. He doesn't encourage NIL, but yet and still he has won, I want to say, like 9 of the last 11 ACC championships. It's insane. Shout out to Clemson for turning it around when others, this guy right here, thought that it was over. They won the ACC, so shout out to them. They are coming to Austin, Texas to play the Longhorns of Texas. Just finished losing to Georgia in overtime. We're having more questions about Quinn Ewers and more questions as to why isn't Arch being used in certain manners. But with all that being said, Texas is a 10.5 favorite going into that playoff game, which should be rocking. I can't wait to see Clemson go down to Texas. Who do you have in this matchup?
One quick note on the Arch situation. The fact that they only put him in for one play against y'all, and it was a goofy little draw play.
I like that play, though.
I liked it, but golly.
That center, shout out to that center, because you got to be a technician to be able to do that shit, man. That was crazy.
Texas needs to figure out something to do with Arch. I know he's starting next year, so there's potentially 3 games left. But, I think he's a weapon you should utilize. Okay. You made a lot of good points about Clemson. They're a cockroach. Dabo won't die. Fuck Clemson. Horns up. Give me Texas.
Nice. Okay. Now, 10.5 seems like a lot for me in this. And I would actually bet that Clemson covers this, because Texas has shown me against Georgia, Texas has shown me that their offensive line and the interior are not up to snuff. And one thing we can all say about Clemson's defensive line, their defensive line has been historically on point. And this year is no different. They got ballers on that D line. I think they give Texas some issues, but I'm going with Texas to win. I got Clemson covering. Okay. Surprisingly for me. Because I definitely want to see Clemson get blown out. Anytime I can see Dabo looking like a goof on the sideline is one of my favorites. But
must be nice to be a 3-win team in the playoffs. Or 3-loss team, I'm sorry.
Right. 3. Yeah. Shout out to Clemson, man. All right, final game, Eric. I think this is the most highly anticipated matchup, because these are two programs that are great fan bases. I'm not going to say great as in great people, but okay. I'm going to say great as in support.
Okay.
2 teams that have some stars. On Tennessee, you got Nico. Nico's the man. If he's healthy, he is the man. Their running back Samson led the SEC in rushing. Mm-hmm. Great season for him. And on Ohio State, it's a who's who list of players on that offense and defense. Shout out to Caleb Downs. He is firmly placed himself amongst the best defensive backs in the nation. We all knew that his freshman year at Alabama, when Saban, before he even set foot on that field, Saban pretty much ordained him. He was like, no, Caleb is him. Like, we all knew that before the season. So I know it's a heartbreaker for you to be able to see that young man playing for Ohio State, but they are hosting Tennessee. Ohio State 7-point favorites in this nighttime matchup that I can't wait to watch, Eric. who is going to win and have the right to go face the number one team in the nation, the Oregon Ducks.
So before I even get into the game, I think this matchup should have been flipped. I think it should have been Ohio State at Tennessee.
Okay.
Tennessee has showed me more this year to warrant a home game than Ohio State has.
Okay.
With that being said, Ohio State gets the name, brand, value, all that stuff. That's the reason why. I'm not going to argue it either way. It's going to come down to a quarterback play, in my opinion.
Okay.
And Nico is head and shoulders a better quarterback than Will Howard. I believe Will Howard showed the nation this year that he is not as good as previously thought. But I do believe that Tennessee walks into the shoe, makes a hot seat for Ryan Day even warmer. And I think he gets the job done. And they force that matchup with top-ranked Oregon and Tennessee, and you know how much I hate to say that.
For sure. We both do. I agree with you, man. I think the frustrating thing about Ohio State is statistically their defense is one of the best in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
But in certain situations, be it their cornerbacks, little suspect. Their defensive line has shown that they can get moved around. It's unfortunate that they have to play the SEC's leading rusher and an explosive passing offense with some talented guys on the outside. I think they are a wide receiver or two away from actually being a natty contender, a true contender, in my opinion. But I think Nico makes the plays that he needs to make. I think they run the ball well. And one thing that not many of us are talking about, the best defense that came out of SEC this year was the Tennessee Volunteers. Yep. I think they get pressure on Will Howard, and I got Tennessee beating those guys. I got them beating them. So, sucks to be you, Ryan Day. Sucks to be you.
Hey, and your potential replacement just got hired, so theoretically just got hired. But yeah, man. Eric, man, thank you for coming on Dogs versus All, y'all. I really appreciate you spending some time to talk about this sport that we love. Anytime, you know that.
I know you're looking forward to the, what is it, ReliaQuest Bowl.
Hey, you know what, though? I think it's poetic justice. It's poetic justice. We started the year off losing to Michigan. We're going to end the year beating Michigan.
That's poetic. Fair. That's fair. Run up 100 on them, please.
I would love that.
Please. Screw Michigan. I think we can both agree there. But listeners, man, enjoy some college football. Thank you again. Please, on your way out, like, comment, subscribe to Suplex Dinner Club. Check this guy out on the Triple Coverage Fantasy Football Podcast. Check him out on the 1-2-3 Double Play Podcast when we get that back up. And, of course, you can check me out on all things Suplex Dinner Club. I'm Adrian. You already know it's no BS. This is Eric. And we're out. And as always, go Dogs.
Trust your preparation. No, your ass is prepared for this shit for fucking 365 days. I think about the fucking in that locker room. Think about getting our opportunity. All the shit you went through this week to get ready for this game. Now is when you pay the fucking price. You go out there with energy, enthusiasm. Ain't nobody wants you to be cautious. Ain't nobody wants you to be nervous about shit. Go out here and fuck their ass up. Don't think about scoreboard. Don't think about shit. You think about knocking the shit out of them. Did you hear what Box said on Monday? When I sat in that fucking meeting, I wanted to go fucking play right then. Tore your shit up out here. 2 years ago, fuck your shit up. Goddamn pride and joy tells me you fuck these guys up. You go play the right way. You play the right way. You knock their ass off. You stay off the fucking ground. You tackle the fucking man with the ball. The shit's easy. Look at the right shit. Punish their ass on offense and kick their ass on special teams, guys. It's about who the fuck we are. I believe in you. Let's go.